The North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional High School District Board of Ed meeting on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022 is now called to order. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by submission of notice of the time, date, location, or instructions for remote access to the Hunterdon Democrat on December 9th, 2021, the Star Ledger on December 7th, 2021, and subsequently re-advertised on May 19th, 2022. Notice, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting has been posted at the North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School, provided to the municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, Califon Borough, Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as all other interested parties, and posted on the district websites. Fire exits are located in the directions indicated. If alerted to fire, please move in an orderly and calm fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, I request that you please silence all cell phones. Katie, can you please do a roll call?
Ms. Bonomi?
Present.
Ms. Crisologo?
Present.
Mr. Farbanish?
Here.
Ms. Hintz?
Present.
Ms. Hoffman? Mr. Kirchberger?
Here.
Mr. Meelik?
Here.
Ms. Salino?
Here.
Mr. Spanton?
Here.
Mr. Straight?
Here.
And Ms. Biata?
Here. May we all stand for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start the meeting, I just wanted to take a moment to say that our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the community of Uvalde, Texas. If you heard the news today, you will know that they experienced a school shooting at their elementary school that so far has taken the lives of 14 children and 1 student. This is an unspeakable tragedy that no parent or community should have to live through. I know we all hold our children a little closer today and in the days to come. Again, our hearts are with the Uvalde, Texas community. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve agenda item 4.1, which are the minutes from our April 22nd regular school board meeting.
So moved.
Any questions about the meeting notes? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains?
Me.
You, Roger? Motion passes. At this time, we're going to review the New Jersey Department of Education. Dr. Rich Burgess will be presenting a review of the New Jersey Board of Ed. I can't speak tonight. New Jersey Department of Education School Self-Assessment for Determining Grades under Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, District and School Grade Report for 2021-2022.
Good evening, everybody. So just to refresh your memory a little bit, each year this district is required to have each school convene a school safety team. That school safety team conducts a self-assessment of how we are implementing the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. Then those results are then reported to this board in the fall, which we did. Those are then submitted to the state after this board hears those at a public hearing. And then the state reviews that information and that data, conducts a final report, and then we have to present the final report to you all as well. So our scores have not changed since we submitted to the state. Each school scored themselves as having a 77 out of a 78. Each school felt that they could do a little better in one of the areas that relates to HIB programs, approaches, and other initiatives. Just to give you an idea, it's a score of 1 is that you don't meet it, a score of 2 is you do, and a score of 3 is you exceed. So most of our categories we exceeded because remember they felt that they met it a little bit better. So are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. At this time, I'd like to ask that our student representatives present their reports. So Vanessa, could you please tell us give us your report for North Hunterdon.
Of course. So I want to start by talking about Relay for Life. So North was able to raise $47,000 for Relay for Life. So I'm proud of that. Lots of students, teachers, and the community was able to come out and participate in that wonderful event. It was really lovely and it was really successful. Another huge success for the senior class was prom. It went really well. We had a rainy night, but we made the most of it. Outdoor prom was actually very nice. It just felt like we were outdoors because of the weather and not because of COVID. We also want to thank the Polytech Cosmetology program for providing us with stylists who were able to do our hair. I got my hair done. It was very nice. They were all very sweet. I know some other people got their makeup done, and they were a very lovely crew that came out to spend some time with us. I also want to talk about the volleyball team. So the boys volleyball team took 3rd overall in the Skylands Conference, ranked above the boys Central volleyball team, and they lost to Bridgewater, who won 1st. Some upcoming events for the senior class are senior awards on June 1st, graduation on June 15th, and project graduation. We want to thank the PTSA for providing lunch for our rehearsal on June 10th. And I just want to overall wrap up the year by thanking the Board of Ed and the PTSA for making this year very memorable and making the most of what we got. We really appreciated having new tutoring programs, the dogs coming out, the new teams coming together, and all these wonderful activities such as dances and just fun nights that we were able to have as we transitioned back to normalcy. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Vanessa. Hi, Bethany. Can you report out for Voorhees, please?
Yes, so to start off the month of May, we had AP exams, which spanned over the first couple weeks of May, so those went well. And then after that, we had a successful week of NJ-SLA testing with the week of May 16th. Today, we had a blood drive to help with the blood shortage, and that ran all day, and there's many people who volunteered to give blood. For the seniors, some seniors volunteered at Highbridge Elementary School to help 4th graders with their writing, and both 4th grade classes got a bunch of seniors to help write paragraphs. Senior trips happened last week on the 19th and 20th, starting with the dinner cruise on the 19th, and a Six Flags trip on the 20th. Upcoming prom is this Thursday, May 26th, at Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So I know me and a lot of people are very excited. For boys and girls track and field, they participated in the Skylands Conference on Tuesday, today. And then girls golf won the Hunter Warren Sussex Championship. Jack Tavaglio for track won the 3,200 meter championship. And then Joey Avalon, who's a senior, broke the school record in pole vault with a jump of 14 feet.
Wow.
Some upcoming events, we have Relay for Life, which is June 3rd. Our Unified Theater is performing Wizard of Oz, June 4th and 5th. And senior awards and graduation are happening in the next upcoming weeks. And we'd like to thank the board for their patience and helping us throughout this journey of the school year. And that's about it.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Bethany or Vanessa? So at this point, I'd like to take a minute to say thank you to you both for your contributions this year. We have a little bit of a recognition for you. So if you'll join me, Maren will be.
I'm taking a photo. So
We are, and this is a photo op.
You've been with us all year.
Photo op. Thank you so much. Bethany.
Closer to the principal. I know, Karen. All right, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Just take one more. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to move to the Chief School Administrator's report.
So we'll start with the principal's recognition of student achievements in the building. We'll start with Dr. Cochran.
All pleasure to introduce to you a junior that we're very proud of. Her name is Asha Page. Asha has distinguished herself for her accomplishments as they relate to science. So specifically today, we're going to recognize the fact that Asha was selected to be in the New Jersey Governor's School for the Sciences, and that will be held at Drew University on July 10th through the 30th. So she'll be spending 3 weeks of her summer at Drew, engaging in some research projects. So during this 3-week period, Ms. Page will participate in comprehensive, challenging, and intensive college-level programs with other science and math scholars from around the state. Students nominated are nominated by their high schools, so she was nominated by us. And of those students that are nominated, so to just be nominated from North Hunterdon is a challenging process. And of those students that are nominated, only 20% of them are actually selected for the program. So it's a very competitive and very prestigious program to get in, so we're very proud of her for that. I asked Asha why she thinks she was selected. And she actually has a pretty impressive resume outside of just her governor's school. She was an intern at the Da Vinci Science Center for the last 2 years. And in that internship, she worked to develop programs that encouraged females to get involved with the STEM careers. So she worked with that. And then she also was a founder of our research club here at North Hunterdon High School with Mr. Audi. So she also gave a shout out to Mr. Audi, one of her science teachers, for being an influence on her. So she's only a junior. We look forward to seeing what she accomplishes this year. They're going to be publishing a research paper based on what they do down there. And we'll see what else she has in store. So I think she has a bright future ahead of her. So, congratulations.
And Mr. Peterson?
All right, so this guy here is Thomas Larson. He is a senior at Voorhees High School. In my 27-year career, I have only said this about one other student during that time of what I'm going to say about this gentleman here. First of all, in his high school career, he's been a straight A student. I always ask students when they're coming to see me for a myriad of things, or checking in their grades, I ask them, what sound does your report card or your transcript make? You know, like abba, abba, abba. He's straight A. It's, at this point now, it's just, Not only that, but he is involved in at least, I count, 12 different clubs or activities. Okay, so I can go down the list of all of them. I'm going to highlight it with 5. He is a 4-year Key Club member and was vice president his junior and senior year. He worked hard to keep the club members active through COVID and helped the club collect thousands of pounds of food for the county. Thomas is also a member of the Relay for Life team. This club has been inactive for several years and was revived this year, and he's a very active member of the team and is in charge of the logistics for the 5-hour event that is including 3 other schools besides Voorhees at that event. So there's a lot of undertaking with that upcoming event. He is also a member of the class council for the class of 2022. He has been involved in the class council for 4 years. He plays a big part in organizing last year's junior-senior prom and this year's homecoming and senior trips. He faithfully attends meetings and always follows through with his commitments. Thomas is also a 4-year member of the theater club, where he has been the sound director. Behind the scenes, his expertise has helped produce numerous successful shows over the years. He is also a member of the National Honor Society and a 4-year member of the boys tennis team. And also, recently, he was with the model. He went on the Model UN trip, where he was chosen as the premier advocate for the International Court of Justice. So what I had said about that one other student is it's rare to find a student like Thomas that can be so involved in so many things and give a 100% commitment to it and always bring out the best in those clubs and activities. So I thank him for his time and thanking him for making Voorhees look good.
I have a few items that are actually repeats of some of the announcements that were made by our student board reps. First, we will continue our COVID-19 protocols through the end of the school year. We did have a slight uptick in cases following spring recess, which is similar to what we've seen following other holidays. We will keep you updated over the summer if we receive any recommendations from the New Jersey Department of Health for the new school year. Blood drive will be held at North Hunterdon High School tomorrow from 7:30 a.m. until 3 p.m. in the main gym. Today was a blood drive at Voorhees. Please consider donating, as New Jersey Blood Services has declared a blood emergency due to an alarming drop in blood donations. Then as we move into the last few weeks of the school year, a couple events that are coming up or have already happened. The North Hunterdon prom was on May 20th, and the Voorhees Junior Senior prom is on May 26th. Senior Awards Night is June 1st for North Hunterdon and June 2nd for Voorhees. Final exams are scheduled for June 8th, 9th, 10th, and 13th, with makeup exams on June 14th. All final exam days are early dismissals for students. Graduation ceremonies for the class of 2022 will be held on June 15th. HIV report for this month, we have no incidents. Just revisiting last month's report, we had 3 founded incidents. Need a motion on that.
Okay, can I have, call for a motion and a second to affirm the determinations of the HIV incidents reported at the April 26, 2022 board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Shelley, Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions?
And the monthly reports are attached for your information. That's
So
it.
moved.
Thank you.
Just a reminder that our Voorhees High School graduation ceremony will be on June 15th at 10 a.m. North Hunterdon's high school graduation will also take place on June 15th at 10 a.m. Next month's meeting on June 28th will be our annual goal setting and board meeting, which will begin at 6 p.m. A little change in time, and I'll be here in the district office. And then we have an action item, which is pursuant to NJSA 18A 17-20.3A, and in preparation for the June 28th board setting meeting, board members are requested to complete the board self-evaluation, the chief school administrator's evaluation available online at the NJ School Boards Association. Also, the deadline to submit nominating petitions for the school board vacancies to the county clerk's office is on July 25th, 2022 at 4 p.m. At this time, I'd like to have the committees report out on their meetings that were held this month. I think the first one we'd like to start with is Community Relations, Tara.
Hi, thanks. Community Relations met on May 19th virtually. In attendance was myself and Mr. Chapman. Missing was Ms. Cosalago and Mrs. Salino. The administration was involved. Mr. Bender pointed out about the COVID, so I won't go into that. That was one of our topics. But the second topic was a brochure that the New Jersey School Board Association released the beginning of this month, and it's been embedded on our website, but it's one that I think board members and the community should look at. It's a guide to Board of Education meetings in New Jersey, and it was a courtesy that was released by the New Jersey School Boards Association. There are also copies of it here at the board meetings, and we'll keep them here available for the public. But it outlines what a Board of Education meeting is, and it's one of the things that everybody should read so they understand the roles of our administration and our school boards. So I highly recommend people going to click on our website, which is already embedded, or if you're here tonight, take a copy of it and read it. And other than that, besides the COVID and the protocols staying the same, that was all we had to report on. The schools have been busy, so student activities have been very busy, but we've covered those, and our student representatives so eloquently stated everything our students are up to, and it's fabulous. I'm so glad you guys are having a wonderful school year, so thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Does anybody have any questions for Tara? Can we move on to curriculum, instruction and technology?
Yes, the committee met on May 18th. All committee members were present with the exception of Kim Salino and Roger Straight. We had 4 items of discussion. The first was we discussed the 3 items on this month's board agenda, which is next year's professional development plan, the home instruction list, and out-of-district placements. We discussed clubs and activities that could assist with addressing items listed in the professional development plan. And we looked at the actual professional development plan. What's in that is items that guide our large group sessions in August and throughout the year. There are other topics such as learning loss that are addressed by individual departments. So we clarified the differences between the development plans. The second agenda item, we discussed the summer curriculum hours, which are on the May personnel agenda for this month as well, and the reasons behind them. Many of the hours that are on there are due to the revised state standards that go into effect for next year, and the other hours are for new courses or to make revisions into current courses that are needed. The third item that we discussed was the student enrollment. This item is one of our monthly analysis that the committee undertakes. We reviewed the district enrollment from 2017-18 school year to the projected number for next year. Overall, the district enrollment has decreased by around 290 students from 2017-18 to 2021-22. However, the enrollment is around 190 students higher than the last demographic study projected. In addition to that, it's important to note that we have more currently this year. We have more than 300 students in our district that are academy students, which are part of the Hunterdon County Vocational School District. And then the last item that was discussed for the good of the order, we just discussed as a district what the process is for final exams and confirmed that the final exams are the same at both schools. And that's our report.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Deb?
I do.
When was the last demographic study done?
So,
2017.
2017, thank you. And it's every 5 years? So this year's the,
We discussed at the committee meeting, hesitant to start another demographic study right now because of the Polytech program that's going to be coming on board. Plus with the new housing that's going in locally, it's going to be difficult to get an accurate number. So we're going to keep an eye on things and probably start that a little bit later than
anticipate 2023?
maybe even 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. Based upon the faulty projections from the last study, you said we should be lower, but that we're higher because of the academies. Did, I guess, that last projection have the academies, were they part of it? So I'm just wondering if that just made up the difference, and we were still following that projection, or?
also part of the reasoning for the increase in our enrollment is during COVID, we had a higher influx of families move into the community than had been happening. And other than that, I don't know
And
if
the
you want to add.
academies are in the projected numbers for next year.
No, but the projection from
original forecast?
2017,
The academies were not in
okay,
that demographic study.
so that helped to
Yes.
prop up our numbers. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Facilities, finance, and transportation?
Sure, thank you. Our committee met virtually on the 16th. Everybody was there, and administration. It was nice to have an easier meeting since the budget passed last month, so we didn't have to talk about that. But an update for some of our other projects. The solar project at Voorhees is scheduled to tie in on the 21st of June and the 21st of July at North Hunterdon, so that's nice. So that will be coming to an end soon. Our summer projects will commence immediately after graduation and be completed by the time we come back to school then in late August. Referendum,
The application is still at the Department of Education. It's been submitted under review, no action at this time. The Polytech project, which is we're hosting on our campus, meetings are ongoing. They have appointed a construction manager, and they will be submitting a logistics plan to us when it is completed. And as far as some of the agenda items, I guess there's some money to fix some of the tennis courts here at North Hunterdon. It's unlike Voorhees, which will take, that tennis court work will take place this summer, some more severe repairs. The work that's on the agenda regarding the North Hunterdon tennis courts is like a ongoing maintenance which needs to occur every 5 years, which is part of our contract for when we fixed it, the North Hunterdon tennis court the last time. So it's an ongoing thing, and we expect the same to be at Voorhees. After the repairs that are done at Voorhees this summer, it'll have to be maintained, I imagine, every 5 years as well. So that's there. The renewal of medical, dental prescriptions for the following year is in line with what we budgeted. However, we did see a small increase in medical, no increase on dental prescription. Our liability insurance provider, you'll see we were awarded a little over $30,000, and that money will be used to offset our Class 3 officers at both schools. So those are just some of the highlights, but otherwise a light month for our committee. Any questions? Thank you.
Personnel?
Personnel met on May 18th virtually at 6:30 p.m. All committee members were in attendance, as well as Mr. Burgess and Mr. Venter. We discussed the personnel portion of the agenda, and then we also discussed 2 proposals for clubs, and that was the Needles and Hooks Club and the Unified Theater and Musical at Voorhees High School. And that will be taken action on after executive session.
Thanks, Shelley. Anybody have any questions for Shelley? No? Did any of the, our delegates, oh, I'm sorry.
The big ones.
Oh, policy.
Well, if you insist.
Policy. I'm just moving on forward.
Okay. The policy committee
Did meet.
did meet on May 16th at 5:30 p.m. and all members were in attendance.
Including me.
Including you, Jeff, you were there. There are 10 policies up for first reading this month. None of them have any substantive changes to them, so the committee recommends you read them, and if you have any questions, you can bring them for next month for second reading. But we don't have any recommended changes to those 10 first readings. We talked a little bit more about one of the one of the regulation changes. So regulation 9130, which is the use of school facilities. Regulation 7510 is the use of school facilities. The administration is recommending, and the policy committee supports, a change in the janitorial rate that is charged to outside groups that use our facilities. In today's version of the regulation, that rate is based on the actual custodian that picks up the work. So one group might pay more than another group depending on which custodian actually gets assigned the work. And instead they're recommending one consistent rate, which is based on a blended rate of all the custodians, and that way all the outside groups would be paying the same amount in overtime custodial charges. The committee recommends supporting that change in regulation. We talked about regulation 9130 with regard to reconsideration. We've been sort of talking about this one for the last few months. We have concluded after discussion, sort of a lengthy discussion, that there's no need for a change to policy 9130 with regard to the reconsideration of resource materials. We're going to recommend but the administration is considering a minor change to the regulation 9130 about implementing the policy, and that that would be that in the event of a challenge materials, they would inform the board, the superintendent would inform the board and may form a reconsideration committee, which allows for some flexibility for re-challenged materials. So without having to get into statutes of limitations or anything else that might be more administratively complex and not supportable than would need to be. So I think that would allow the ability of the regulation to function when it needs to and not when there's, not necessarily when there's re-challenges of materials that have already been considered. We also had a discussion on the virtual participation. There was nothing up for review for the board about the public's virtual participation in the meetings, but we did, after a lengthy discussion, recommend that we maintain our existing approach to public participation in the meetings, and now that we're in a sort of non-COVID posture, that public participation is in person, and that's how two-way, or that's how the public can comment to the board. And in sort of coordination with that, we also circled back to the discussion from several months ago about board member remote participation. And it was the conclusion of the policy committee that the stance for board members should be the same as our stance for the public, which is to be a involved two-way participant in the meeting, that the policy committee represents or recommends that board members be in person and not be enabled to participate remotely at this time. Although we did also discuss the fact that technology is continuing to evolve, and as the technology evolves, that the policy committee should be open to continued reassessment of that, so that we can have as transparent and active board as possible. Finally, we talked about something that came up at last month's meeting, which was the regionalization, an ad hoc regionalization subcommittee for consideration of regionalization. And it was decided that the recommendation of the policy committee is that that effort should begin at the board president's roundtable with all of the board presidents of the sending districts, since an effort like that would require the involvement and participation and consensus of all the sending districts. So Jessica had agreed that she would take that topic to the next board president roundtable. And that was our meeting. Anyone have any questions?
Just to give you an update on that last point, Marin helped us. We have Gwen Thornton from NJSBA attending the sending district meeting, and she's doing a presentation on regionalization
Awesome.
for us and all the sending districts, so we are on it.
When is that going to be held?
Oh,
June 3rd.
June 3rd? The 3rd, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Rob?
Oh, 9.
Oh, we're
June 9th. That was a week off.
Correction.
So was the only reason why board members can't attend remotely with technology is because we don't let the public attend remotely?
And we didn't want you attending all the board meetings, Roger. John, you have any further comment on the considerations around remote board participation?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, COVID gave a different perspective to this issue than had ever been considered pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, there was standing kind of disincentives from various public authority with regard to remote participation in Board of Education meetings. There were conflicting opinions from the Attorney General's office as well as DCA, and there were very, very few school districts, none of ours, that permitted remote attendance from a policy standpoint and a legal standpoint, much of what was shared in the summary of the minutes, and that is, kind of put simply, it's a public meeting. And if members of the public are going to attend to be heard, the thought has been traditionally that elected officials ought to be public and live as well. There is certain basis under law if a board wants to, by way of self-governing, permit remote attendance and participation in action, it can. We see it at in some municipal bodies. I don't know if any county bodies pursue this, but I hear much more of it at the municipal level. I still don't think any of our near 80 school districts permit remote participation or action for the policy considerations that were shared. Now we get into COVID, and the cameras go on, and it's Zoom, and it's efficient meetings, and because of public health crisis, everybody's remote. It has to be remote. It is remote and operating under multiple governor's orders. Now that one of them went away, and now we're here again, most of us without masks on. And I think the policy considerations and perspective resets in many ways as to the past. And what we've seen in public bodies, just as was shared before, we have virtual committee meetings, we have virtual BIEP team meetings. The OAL is still virtual. Some courts still have virtual proceedings. But when we have public meetings that are noticed, almost all are back in public. And so the thinking is, if it's a public meeting and the public can come and attend, members ought to be there as well from a public standpoint. It's not to say that that has to be the board's perspective. It's certainly my recommendation for a number of reasons, both from a policy standpoint as well as a legal standpoint. And if we want to climb further into kind of the intricacies of remote participation, we get into confidentiality issues with exec.
Take exec off the plate. Take the exec off. We already talked about exec. It was never going to be part of the board meeting, just the public meeting.
Okay.
Why we had never thought why we couldn't attend a public meeting from afar.
Okay.
I get the executive, because other people can be in the room. I get that. But the public meetings, I don't get.
Okay. Well, you know, I've shared a couple of thoughts. I think another thought is that I hear, and I haven't heard this here, but I have heard this in other places, is folks, and again, I'm not saying this to you, but there is a certain perspective at times, I think optics, if one is going to run for the board, or be appointed to the board, or participate in the board, one ought to be at the board and take action publicly. And is there a disincentive in that if folks can phone it in? Again, not my words, but I think that's another policy consideration. There certainly are logistical considerations, and I won't talk about exactly because that apparently wasn't part of the conversation before. But I think there are both legal and practical and optic considerations involved from my perspective.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anyone have any other questions about the policy committee?
All right, moving on then.
Thank you. Thanks for including
Thanks,
me.
Rob. I think I did that once before too. I could just miss that one sentence. Were there any meetings that were attended by our liaisons or representatives for School Boards Association or any of the educational services?
Yeah, we had the delegate meeting on Saturday, May 14th, and it actually was a very amazing and a big meeting. So on business side, there was no pressing legal or resolutions that, emergencies that had come up to the delegate assembly. As members, we approved a motion to approve and affirm the 5,000 section of the pupils' New Jersey School Board's manual, positions and policies on education. So if you don't know those and you want to go to New Jersey School Boards and read up on the 5,000 series, we approved it. The other was that we considered an amendment to Article 7, Section 2 of the New Jersey School Board bylaws to state that in addition to having served 1 full year as a board member prior to their election to a New Jersey School Board Association office, candidates must have qualified for and received the certified board member qualifications set forth in the New Jersey School Board's Governance and Operation Manual, which is GO 66031 if you want to know. What the biggest part of the delegate was is that the board, New Jersey School Boards met on Friday the 13th. And Dr. Lawrence Feinberg, who had served as the board president for 10 years, is retiring. And we elected a new incoming executive director. It's Dr. Timothy Purnell, and he is just amazing. He had been nominated as a New Jersey Superintendent of the Year, and he had been the interim executive county superintendent of Morris County. He comes with much energy and perspective, and it was quite an exciting delegate meeting. One of the things that he expressed to the delegates was the concern over the dwindling number of students seeking to become teachers. And we know, looking at our candidates pools, and as teachers retire, we need to find outside teachers. Teaching is becoming a profession that is not being actively pursued. So he spoke at length on this, and one of the things as a delegate and as a board member I wanted to bring to our board and to our administration on ways we can, as a district, encourage our student population to maybe pursue education as a vocation, as a career path. So I don't know what we can do to do that, but I was empowered by his speaking, and I believe teaching is one of the most noblest professions. So as a board and as a school district, I'd like to encourage our students to pursue teaching as a collegiate degree and as a career path. So, and then Dr. Lawrence Feinsod, who's amazing, spoke, and his wife spoke, and one of the things he said, and of course I started to cry because that's what I do, but he told the audience, and he said, we need to remember it's about the children. And we get caught up in things outside of us, ideologies, whatever, but we all, as a district, as teachers, as boards of eds, need to remember it's about the children. So he ended with that, and of course he said he wanted to say it, 15 more minutes about the children, and everybody was moved, and I just wanted to bring that energy to all of us. As I know we're here sitting on the board because that's what our intent is. It's about the children of our district and our community. So it was an amazing delegate assembly, and I'm honored that you guys had asked me to be our representative. So that was it.
I can feel the passion.
Yes.
I all the way over here, Tara. And it is a noble profession.
It is,
great.
truly.
Yeah. And anyone else attend any meetings this month or questions? Okay, right.
Did you have questions for?
Well, sort of, I guess. So, how do we, what can we do as a district, to encourage that as a vocation?
Good question.
That's what I wanted to, maybe we can, think about it as administration, as a board, as our, guidance counselors, but I really wanted to bring that message back because he was very, empowered by that was something that we really need to, as communities, as board members, help the future and encourage teachers into the next generation. Right?
Teacher for the day.
I attended the Hunterdon County School Board Association meeting, and they did a government relations legislative update, nothing that we hadn't already discussed as a board or at some point in committee. And then Gwen Thornton did a presentation on the board's rolling curriculum, which was excellent, which I can share if anybody wants to see it. You've probably all seen it before. I probably learned more than most of you would as a new board member, but it was really good. And then she talked about the New Jersey social emotional learning competencies and sub-competencies, which was also a really interesting presentation. I had the pleasure of attending the No Place for Hate committee meeting at Voorhees on May 11th, and this month the meeting was facilitated. It was a training and facilitated discussion by Dr. Natalie Edmond. And it was just an excellent discussion on the privilege and power wheel, and we just had a really, it was a great conversation about identity and privilege and how knowing ourselves helps us be better educators. So it was a beautiful meeting. And then on Friday, I had the opportunity to go to the New Jersey School Boards Association Equity Conference, and I have like too many notes, and I don't want to go on forever, and it's hard to compete with the level of passion from. But one of the things, my biggest takeaway from everything that I heard, which was state leaders, school districts, student leaders from all over the state doing equity work, diversity, equity, inclusion, and really belonging work in their districts, is that centering student voice in the process is by far the most effective way to do good belonging work. You have to include students in the process and hear their stories and let them lead the way, for lack of a better term. So it's similar, right? Centering students. So I was glad to have that opportunity to go. Thanks, guys.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan?
I don't know, we did, our student representatives, we brought this to the board, and I'm so thankful that we approved to do that, and I hope we continue this every year, because it's invaluable in what you just said. The voices of our student representatives is paramount to us as a board of hearing from the student populations on everything that's going on. So thank you for your commitment, and I hope as a board, I don't think we voted on it, but I don't know if it's going to be an ongoing situation.
It will be.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. During this, at this point in time, we have an opportunity for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the school board with questions or comments. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct their comments to the school board president. While all comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate, the school board members will not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be for a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there are unusual circumstances. Those appearing will be allotted 3 minutes to speak, and no one will be permitted to speak twice until those who have not yet had an opportunity to speak have had a turn. Is there anyone here for a public comment?
Hi, I'm Mary Fran Daly, and I am a parent of 2 5th graders in Clinton. And I just wanted to respond to some of the remarks that were made at the last meeting by other members of the public. First of all, thank you so much for your service to our community. That I very much appreciate the time that you give, and also the gravity of your role, and also it's fun, it's kids, but I know it's a lot of work and a lot of balance to pull off. That it's such a weird position that, like, you're an elected official, right, but when your name's on the ballot, your politics aren't on there, because our kids and our schools are such sacred things that we want to sort of pull some of that out of it, so that you're focusing on what matters to our community and what matters to our kids. But I know gender identity and some curriculum and some library books have really gotten a lot of attention that is political attention, and that there's a lot of strong feelings about that. And I also, too, have strong feelings about that. And they are because of an empty chair that was at the front row of the College of New Jersey graduation last week. And that was, I'm a former Sunday school teacher of this child who grew up in my community, in my congregation, and who was a trans kid who died by his own hands his freshman year. And I think it wasn't just his hands that he died by, that it was a lot of this political intensity and focus and hatred that our culture is throwing at some of these kids. And I just want you to take seriously your role of protecting these children who are marginalized, who are minority, who are unheard, or who are perceived as having an agenda, or whose acknowledgement is perceived as having an agenda.
that they're kids who need to just be left alone. They need library books that represent their stories. They need curriculum that acknowledges something that's not a heterosexual lifestyle, which doesn't mean that we're ignoring any of the other life choices and any of the other cultural beliefs, just to let them be. So, thank you.
Would anyone else from the public like to address the board? Okay. Seeing none? Oh, sorry.
Hi, everybody. I am signing in as Mark Dickinson, librarian at North Hunterdon High School, and I am privileged to follow Fran's remarks. As you are probably aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, an annual event to advocate for people and families dealing with mental illness. Given today's horrific news from Texas, a focus on mental health is not just timely, it's essential. You may not realize it, but the school library plays a role in protecting student mental health. Every day, kids tell us how much they appreciate the library as a peaceful refuge in the midst of a stressful school environment. Here are representative verbatim comments from this year's student library survey. These are the kids' words. The library helps me not feel lonely. Library staff have been very helpful supporting students. They give me a nice and quiet place to study. They're very kind. Whenever I get overwhelmed or need to focus, I come to the library. It's like a safe haven. Clearly, students know the library to be a safe and welcoming space, but the monthly protests at this microphone paint a very different picture, characterizing the library as a den of iniquity, its staff as predatory monsters, and the materials as smut. Those baseless attacks on the library and its books are, by extension, attacks on readers. When you falsely describe well-reviewed, award-winning titles as obscene, disgusting, and pornographic, you're also demeaning the readers of those books. According to the National Coalition Against Censorship, quote, LGBTQ youth and children from LGBTQ families get the message that their own stories, their very lives, do not have value, that they are shameful, unquote. That shame, those feelings of worthlessness, are a ticking time bomb. In its 2022 survey on LGBTQ mental health, the Trevor Project found that 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered suicide in the past year. Research at Oregon Health and Science University found that feelings of loneliness are a key predictor for depression and suicidal ideation. Books and the library are a lifeline out of that loneliness. Books show readers that they are not alone. And as we have heard, the library, our library, offers students a safe haven. Just yesterday, a colleague told me that our school library is perceived as having an agenda that is, quote, way overboard, unquote, in support of the LGBTQ community. Although I would argue that such a perception is inaccurate, I'll live with it. Because Trevor Project data show that kids who found their school to be an LGBTQ affirming place reported lower rates of attempting suicide. If our library staff, and our diverse materials keep students from self-harm or harming others, that's work worthy of praise, not criticism. During this Mental Health Awareness Month, I ask you to remember that the community and our kids are watching. The words spoken here have an impact. Please manage these meetings to ensure that the impact is one that protects the mental and emotional health of students and staff, rather than one that attempts to achieve a false equivalency to placate a hostile extremist fringe. Thank you.
My name is Elliot Schneider. I'm Union Township. I was part of the graduating class of 2017. And first of all, I want to thank all of you, board members. Obviously, this is kind of a thankless job sometimes, right? And especially these sort of nonpartisan elected positions are really kind of the bedrock of our system, so thank you for taking the time on your day, especially some of you who maybe didn't sign up for such a position with such a spotlight. I am, though, slightly concerned because, you know, beyond those discussions of LGBT books, I noticed, and these challenges may not have reached this district yet, but they're working their way through some other districts, so I wouldn't be surprised if they arrived here, of some other books that are beyond the questions of LGBTQ identity to a more broader net. For example, Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, Sally Rooney's Normal People, and The Kite Runner. And it's a disturbing trend because it seems that coming before boards like this are going to be challenges that are not just to the identity of a marginalized group, but more against people that have the guile to go against the hegemonic view of how society should be structured. You know, the reason that people like Margaret Atwood or George Orwell or Kurt Vonnegut are so controversial is the same reason that they are so persistently relevant. They stand up and say that just because everyone else says society should be structured like this does not mean it has to be. They point out the hypocrisies, the various moral failings of our society, and I think that's important for students. Content like that was certainly important for me, coming up and finding that because you might have a voice that is a little, or opinions that are slightly different from everyone around you, or even the convention around you, does not make it incorrect necessarily. And I think that this board has done a really good job of making sure that people can read books and opinions that might go against status quo under the supervision of a very good staff that we can see the results of in the new U.S. News report that puts North Hunterdon one of the top 10% of schools. So I would just like to say that, you know, if those kind of challenges come up before this body, I would hope that they make a very wise decision to say that people should be able to think about alternative views of the status quo. And it's not just about LGBTQ identity, although that's very important, but also the idea of, you know, the dominant view of society, the criticism of our society, and people may come up and feel threatened by that and say that shouldn't be in front of our kids. But in my view, I mean, kids need to be able, this is an institution of learning, a duty to create good citizens of the republic, right? When you graduate, you're of the voting age to pick the new members of the school board, your new representatives. You can't be sheltered if you're going to be going out to be a citizen of the republic, to be a confident steward of the republic, which I don't think is too much of a political statement.
How you doing? Pete Galladay. Thank you for all the good work everybody's doing. I appreciate it. And those good comments about going in the library and, you know, just getting away from the world and lose yourself in books. I've done that somewhat myself. I didn't go to college, but I knew at an early age that I like to look to the professionals for things that I have questions about. One of my favorite teachers was an English teacher in my sophomore year. I was really troubled and made an impact in my life. So I looked to the teachers, principals, counselors, and stuff like that. Any kind of survey can be skewed, whether it's a Trevor survey, Southern Baptist survey, you know, anything like that. They could definitely be skewed. I think there's some other surveys out there. People who are having problems at home, 80 percentile, want to commit suicide or think about it. 60% make a plan, maybe 10%, you know, follow through with it. My family, my siblings and I grew up in a really heavy atmosphere, a lot of abuse. My sister killed herself a few years back. She didn't handle what happened to her too well. And it's just, I think there's predators out there, and I think there's other just things beyond our control that happen. Mental illness, like somebody talked about, is a big and real thing out there. We gotta look to people, you know, to help us out. We gotta look to the pros. I have issue with some of the books that are out there, not talking about the type of sex per se, but just maybe the sex itself. My one daughter read a book called Glass Castle. I think the book, around page 168, they talked about an uncle who was watching Hee-Haw of all television programs while rubbing his 11-year-old niece's leg and pleasuring himself. I kind of was disheartened to hear this, and so I said, let me look at it, and I read it, and I said, okay, it was there, it definitely was there. I don't really teach that to my kids. I only have 3 kids, and I try to teach the best thing. You know, we have ways to go through life, respect everyone, you know, try not to disrespect anyone, you know, defend yourself. But I think that both sides are really inflamed, you know, just, it's really a lot of stuff going on out there. And there's good cause, you know, because there's people that are setting fires, and, you know, there's words that are, you know, out there nowadays, and people are like, oh, they're gaslighting. It's like, oh, okay, years ago they used to call that lying. But what I'm trying to say is, I think the values that everybody's trying to teach is, let's get along with each other. We're all suffering through what we just went through over the past couple of years, and we just want the best for our kids. One second. And I don't know if I'm too comfortable with having my daughters read this heavy stuff. It doesn't matter what side, but, you know, I just want to voice my opinion. First time I'm here in this format, but, you know, I'll be back. I just wanted to see how it goes. And, you know, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to address the board? Moving forward with the agenda, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve agenda items 12.1 to 14.14.
Motion.
Rob?
14.17.
Oh, 14.17.
Second.
Deb, and this is a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Is there any old or new business that we would like to discuss as a board?
Before you go on, you said 1.7?
Yeah.
There's 3 items on the agenda that I have to abstain from. They're on the staff training and travel requests under 14.17.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Tara. Is there any old or new business the board would like to discuss?
I have something. Since we're at a time going for district goals, superintendent eval, and board eval, which brings us back to the policy 1240. We left that last year, and I think it was because, I think Glenn had brought it up that we would discuss that after we took, everyone took their seats, new nominations, and I believe it was not, we had a discussion, but I don't think it was approved.
Okay.
Can you just pull that and make sure policy, we had a lot of discussion at that,
Yep.
and I think that discussion was still open, and it
Okay.
was left at the end of last year.
I will.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I do. I would respectfully ask the board and administration to consider The board goal session is set for June 28th. I'm not going to be here. I had made plans to go visit family in Ireland, and I made those flights before we changed. Our agenda had been the 21st, and then Ms. Blue had asked if we could do because of accounts, so we switched it to the last Tuesday of the month. So I'm not going to be here, and I really believe that as a constituent, representing my constituents, I should be part of the whole of the board on our goal setting. So I don't know if we can do a separate, I know we're moving it to 6 o'clock, if we can do a separate meeting for just goal setting, and then do the 28th board meeting from 7 to 9, if that's permissible. So I just want to put it out there because I can't change my family gathering, and I have flights that were purchased before everything went crazy, and I'm not going to be here, and I would like to be part of it. So I would ask for that to be considered.
Well, we'll look into it, Tara. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So I'd like a call for a motion and a second to adopt resolution 052422-2 for executive session to discuss matters falling under category 4 and 8 as reflected in the attached resolution. The board expects to be in executive session for approximately 1 hour, and upon return to public session, action will be taken.
So moved.
Ken?
Second.
Rob? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Opposed? Motion passes. We're in executive session. I can't speak. Can I have a motion and a second to reconvene public session?
Motion.
Second. Tara, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. This time I'd like to ask if there's any new business to discuss. Okay, seeing none. Can I call for a motion and a second to approve agenda items 19.1 and 19.2, including the following hand carry, which is to approve the CNA with the NHV for a period of 2021 to 2024, as discussed in executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Does that include the executive minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
I have to abstain from the executive minutes from last time.
Anyone else abstaining? Opposed?
I'm going to do a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Ms. Bonomi?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman is absent. Ms. Crisologo? Yes. Mr. Farbanish?
Yes.
Ms. Hintz?
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchberger?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Ms. Salino?
I'm abstaining from N.8.3.1 through N8.3.8.
I'm going to need you to say that one more time.
I'm abstaining from, it's N,
Yeah.
8.3.1 through N 8.3.8.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes to 19.1, abstain from 19.2. I don't know where the N comes in, I don't know
When
where.
you look at the schedules, it's just
athletic schedule.
schedules.
Oh, I'm not looking at that, okay, I'm good with 19.1.
You're good.
And are you on 19.3, the hand carry?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And Ms. Beato?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Can I call for a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Adjourned.